Welcome to the Dirty Side of Leadership podcast with Ron and Kristin, where leadership meets entertainment. This podcast features stories with names and certain aspects that have been changed to keep submissions private. Enjoy the show.
Welcome to the Dirty Side of Leadership podcast, where leadership meets entertainment. I'm Kristin, and as always, I am joined by my amazing co-host, Ron Ward. Ron, how are we doing today?
I am great, Kristin. Thanks for reading the word amazing on there.
You are so welcome. I remembered to introduce you today, so that is a bonus.
Yeah, that's good. Is that a promotion for me? Maybe I got promoted.
Yeah, there you go.
No, a funny thing happened, Kristin. I was contacted by a listener when I used to put a lot of adjectives describing myself just so Kristin would have to read them. I had fun with it. But I jokingly, after I quit doing it, I said, I'm working on humility. And I had a listener contact me and said, I don't think you come across arrogant. I think you're fine. So I had to explain that just a little joking around there that we do. But
just a little witty banter.
Hey, as you can imagine, I'm really excited about this podcast. And I think most of America probably is as well with Netflix. But we're going to be talking about scams. And here's the connection to leadership. Effective leadership and successful scams both rely heavily on persuasion and influence. However, leaders use these tools to inspire and uplift, where scammers exploit them for personal gain. Yeah,
you're spot on. There's a dark side of persuasion. We just did a podcast episode on the art of persuasion, but the dark side and understanding it can help leaders recognize and combat manipulative behaviors within their own organizations and, quite frankly, and unfortunately, personal lives.
Yeah, that's a crucial point. Many scammers exhibit traits associated with narcissistic personality disorder, which we've talked a lot about, such as arrogance, a lack of empathy, and a constant need for admiration. These individuals often use their charm and persuasive skills to manipulate others, which can be particularly damaging if they hold a leadership position.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, narcissistic leaders generally prioritize their own interests over those of their team or organization. And this generally leads to unethical decisions and even fraudulent behavior. So by us examining the tactics used by scammers, we can better understand how narcissistic behavior manifests in leadership and take steps to foster ethical practices.
Well said. Let's delve deeper into how these manipulative behaviors overlap and what leaders can do to safeguard their teams, organizations. And if you're listening, you want to safeguard your family, your friends, because as I said, these scams are everywhere. And we're going to give you some personal stories. So do not leave us. You want to hear what we've got to say on this issue.
Yeah, let's start with the scope of the problem. So, and I love my stats. So a report that I found showed that in 2020 alone, 50 million Americans lost money to scams. And I saw it all the time in the bank. And while anyone can be a target, research and my personal experience, Ron, I'm sure your personal experience suggests that certain individuals are more vulnerable than others. And for me, it was the elderly. I can't even count how many times an old dude would show up at the bank showing me pictures of his fiance who happened to be a Nigerian princess. Meanwhile, he's, 75 plus. So he's older. He doesn't have any money. So he's poor, bad hygiene. And he thinks that this Nigerian princess is interested in marrying him. I mean, it's sad on so many levels. A lot of times these men were living on Social Security. I did see it with women as well. That was more of the emotional. It wasn't so much they're sending hot pictures. It was more, I'm in love with you, that type of thing. Love scam. But it's so sad.
I'm blocking Nigerian princess right now. So, Kristin, I worked a federal case once. It was driveway paving scammers. And what they would do is target elderly homes. And they had ways they would do it. If a house had a swing set, they would know they got younger children and they're probably not elderly. But they would look for those old plywood cutouts, different things that would look like it might be an elderly person lived there. They would send two people to the door. They would say, we just paved your neighbor's driveway, and we've got some left over that we can sell you at this reduced price. Usually the elderly person would agree, and then all of a sudden there'd be like 10 young adult males come out of everywhere. They did have a truck or two. So they would pave it, but there's all these things you're supposed to do when you pave a driveway, like putting
Right.
a base of gravel. So they would do none of that. They just pour a very light coat of asphalt. Then, before that, they would have them sign this blank contract. Then they would use that and say, "You owe us $10,000," and the elderly person would panic. They would literally get in. They would send one or two of their goons to travel with the elderly person to get the money. And it was there was a lot of people defrauded, and a lot of elderly people lost money, and it was frustrating when I worked that case.
That's sad. When you talked about like the cardboard cutouts, are you talking about like yard trinkets?
Yeah, one of these. Now, keep in mind, Kristen, this is like 25 years ago, but it would be like, an elderly woman wearing a bonnet, or there would be like a donkey cut out. I don't know.
Okay.
It was in Southern West Virginia. I guess that was a
Okay.
thing.
I'm thinking of like the cowboy leaned into the house. I
Yes,
see those out
that
here.
kind of stuff.
Yeah, like
Woodworking.
yard
It's stuff that
trinkets.
young
Right.
couples would not have,
Right,
generally speaking.
it does. That's a really good thing to think about because I have a neighbor that has a ton of those in their yard. And though they're somewhat tasteful, it does scream, hey, I'm like at almost 80, if not 80 plus, right? So it
Yeah.
does really scream the age. As always, we're going to provide some leadership driven solutions, and people can avoid scams, excuse me, by buying time before making decisions. So it's important that you seek trusted advice and stay up to date on common scam tactics. And that's what we're going to help out with today.
Yeah, let's talk about the categories of scam susceptibility. Now, these are in general, it doesn't cover
Yeah.
everything, but I found research shows demographics, individual differences, and the nature, the scam, or the nature of the scam, and they all connect in some way.
Yeah, like with demographics in general, findings show that, they're mixed when it comes to education, sex, and race. But when it comes to age, older adults, like I just said, are at greater risk of losing more money per fraudulent incident. And studies do show that middle-aged people are actually scammed at higher rates. But which actually that was surprising for me to read,
Me as well.
but that is what data is showing.
Yeah, that's likely because scammers use different tactics for different groups. One study found that women are more likely to fall for sweepstakes scams, while men are more likely for foreign lottery scams. Older adults tend to prey to investment scams, while younger adults often fall for work from home or business opportunities. There's a lot of those entrepreneurial scams that are out there.
Yes, we have seen those. I want to talk about the role of personality traits, and individual differences in personality also play a huge role. So people with a higher impulse ratio, right? I heard you say women, and I couldn't help to think we love shopping generally, right? I would say 9 out of 10 women are going to enjoy, and it is like this, almost like an impulse buy that I just feel like a lot of us are wired that way. So that's something to keep in mind. Also, another category, a lower cognitive ability, also a possibly lower emotional intelligence. We did a whole episode on emotional intelligence. Those folks are more likely to be scammed, and that's because these traits influence decision making, especially when people feel pressured.
Yeah, and Kristen, as a side note, there's tons of scammers that put merchandise, pictures of merchandise, and it's a going out of business, sell whatever whatever they
Yeah.
decide to label it, and people will order that, give their credit card information, everything. They're never going to get anything, and those are really hard for law enforcement to trace because
Hmm.
there's not even anything mailed. They're just running a scam. So you got to be careful. If you're going to buy online, make sure it's a credible, run that website
Yeah.
through Google, find out if it's a credible company or not, because that's so easy to do. You put it up there, fake a sale, and move on.
Right. I'm going to
So,
be completely honest here, Ron. I fell for one once, and it was on Instagram. It was when I had just got into the ice. What is it called? The tub where you're getting in, and the ice. Oh, it's driving me
Hydro?
nuts.
The hydro?
Oh, no, you have one. It's one where you fill it with ice water and then you get in and it's like, oh, I do the Wim Hof method and
Yeah, mine's a hydro tub. It's
yeah, it's something like that. But this one ended up being a scam. And I guess they could tell by my algorithm that I was really into Wim Hof and all of that cold water exposure. And so it popped up on my feed and my impulse, I bought it and never saw it. Yeah, that one was like, wow, that tricked me because usually I'm pretty sly with my history of banking career and I generally question everything, but they even got me, Ron. Quite embarrassing.
well, I think I've ordered something years ago that never arrived, or I don't remember. There was something that happened as well. I think everybody's probably, whether knowingly or unknowingly, been involved in some kind of a scam. So that's how romance works as well. So Kristin knows this, but I dealt with a situation recently. I've dealt with several, but this one happened, I guess, just a few months ago. I was really close with this lady, and she went on a Christian dating site. And as a side note, when all this was all over, people are going, how could people do this on a Christian dating site? Think about it. If you're a scammer, that's the best place to go because people who profess Christianity are probably more trusting than others. So, and they think you would not lie to them on a Christian dating site. So anyway.
Are you saying Kristin or Christian?
I just said Kristin. I realized that. But anyway.
I do not have my
Trust
own dating
me, there's
site.
a big difference in Kristin and Christian. I'm kidding. Okay.
I'm like, wait, hey there. But yeah, I do not have my own dating site. Man, that would be exhausting.
Kristin.com. Okay. So here's what happened. And by the way, they follow this pattern, the same pattern. This guy contacts her, they match. He says he's got a lot of money. And he even said he had gold bars. And I know we can laugh, but he's telling her she's beautiful. I don't understand this attraction. It went on and on. There's pages of text messages. Spend a lot of time. They do the love bombing thing. You know, they're grooming. So gets her really all in love. And he sets a date that he's going to fly into her little town and visit her. But, and here we go, he can't access all those gold bars. So he needs her to wire some money to pay for the flight. Now, I know if you're listening, you probably start laughing, but when you're 80 some years old and this guy's been working you for 2 weeks, he's probably working 20 different women at the same time. So at some point, her son figures this out. And I don't remember if she told him or what happened. So he's a really sharp guy. And he explains to her, this is a scam, Mom. This is a full-fledged scam. And he explains why and all that. Well, then I'm actually doing some training. I'm out of state and I get a call from him and he tells me what's going on. And he says, you know, I can't get through to my mother. And he said, I'm thinking because of your law enforcement, if you would talk about some of the scams you've worked, that you could get through to her. So I call her. We had this lengthy conversation where I'm explaining every step. And, you know, she was saying, how could someone do that on a Christian dating site? And I'm like, well, that's the perfect place to do it. So anyway, Kristin, I have to say that even when I got the phone, I said, promise me you just won't send money. I said, just wait and see if he actually shows up. Yeah. And so finally she promises and all this. And I get off the phone. I'm pretty proud of myself. And so I get to the airport. I'm traveling back like the next day. And he calls and says, well, it didn't work. She sent the money. I'm like, oh good my God.
Lord.
So she had wired the money and we didn't know the status. So he had a phone number that this scammer had given to her. So I said, give me the number. And I called this person and I went full Liam Neeson. Kristin, you would have loved it. I said, I've got a unique set of skills. And if you accept this wire, I will see you shortly. I didn't use words like I'll break your neck. But anyway, I talked in my deepest commanding voice. Yeah. And so long story short, my cousin, either there was a problem, but he was able to intercept the wire. I'm not sure how it worked. But she finally, her eyes opened. And it's amazing. It's like people are slightly hypnotized during that time period. But he, of course, talked her in. They got off of this Christian dating site. And fortunately, right after that, she met someone in her hometown. They're doing great. And And it's embarrassing for her. She's apologized to me multiple times that she didn't understand what was going on, but
Yeah.
it happens all the time. And I'm sure our listeners, we'd love to hear your story. Contact us.
Yeah.
We'd like to hear about it.
I know. And that's such the sad piece, because that happened at the bank too. I'd be like talking to someone. I'm like, look, I've seen this so many times. This is a scam. They do not want to believe it.
No,
And
they don't.
it's heartbreaking to see, because they think they have this twin flame out there. Have you seen that series?
I have.
Oh my
I'm
gosh.
ashamed of the stuff I watch.
I know, me too, Ron. Goodness.
This
I mean,
is, but this is why I have no
crazy, though.
friends. Can you imagine me talking to guys? I'm like, hey, have you seen Twin Flames?
Wait. I feel like 20 episodes ago, we were talking about how we both, our social lives are full and we don't want any more friends.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, but I lied,
Right.
Kristin. I'm alone.
I'm alone watching Twin Flame.
I'm trying to get gold bars.
All right.
No.
Speaking of Twin Flame, the Scamanda scandal.
Scamanda.
Scamanda. Oh, whoops. I said Scamala.
I like that,
Sorry.
though. I'm writing that down. I'm going to use it.
That was
Next
weird.
episode coming soon. Scamala.
Yeah, Scamala. Okay, so sorry, Scamanda, and that is on Hulu. There's another one, Apple Cider Vinegar, that is on Netflix, and it's about a true story about a gal who faked that she had brain cancer and then talked about how she healed it with all, eating the right diet, etc. She made a ton of money. She had the #1 app in Australia. We can dive into that a little bit more later, but talk to us about, this is insane, right? The Scamanda.
Yes, and she had a blog called Lymphoma Can Suck It. Detailed fake hospital visits. I saw some of this because I originally listened to it on a podcast, and I looked it up. But I have to say this: these people are very bright. They may be, crazy and narcissistic, but they're very bright. She made this look so real. She shared pictures with IVs in her arms, and even held fundraisers at her church. The whole church was behind her, the community, and she was a big time influencer on social media. It's crazy. It's crazy stuff.
Yeah, and that's the true story of Amanda Riley. And she carried that on for a decade. She also created her own brand and an app and multiple businesses based on this massive lie. And she got, I believe, over $100,000 donated for her treatment. I'm using quotes for her treatment, but it all unraveled. So there was an investigative journalist who got a tip and started digging into her story. So it turns out she never had cancer. It was all a scam to gain money, sympathy, and status. And doesn't it make you wonder, Ron, what type of person, you mentioned they can be bright. What drives them to do this, to act this way?
Yeah, there's no doubt it's a personality disorder. I think some of these things start small and they build up. But these people, it's like they're not even trained, but it's a master class of manipulation if you want to learn what not to do. But, these people could have taught marketing because they're so believable and influential. But anyway, the other thing is she played on empathy, and that's exactly what people do. Even this guy on the Christian dating site played on empathy, that he had had some problems. His wife left him, and you get people feeling sorry for you. These are all manipulative tactics. They're used in sales, and people are exploited all the time.
Yeah, they sure are. I want to shift gears a little bit and talk about the prevalence of scams in online marketplaces. And this one scares me because I do take vitamins and order supplements on places like Amazon. I am hearing so much lately about fake vitamins and supplements on Amazon. So it's really important that we pay attention to reviews, but it's alarming. So thousands of fraudulent items are listed, including these vitamins and supplements. And wouldn't you say that's terrifying? Because if it's not what you think you're ordering, what is it?
And that is an unregulated market. With RFK Jr. getting, and we won't get political, but I saw the government's examining everything. They're looking into vaccinations, and they're looking at the death rate, but they're gonna be looking into a lot of the things that we could call scams that could provide potential health risks. So you don't even know what you're taking. Now, that's usually like a placebo. A lot of people would argue like it's nothing that would kill you because they don't want to get caught, but it's certainly not providing you with supplements.
Right, right. And it's like, it's a tough one because I'm all about, the free market and being able to buy and sell. But at the same time, I do want regulation when it comes to supplements that I think I'm putting one thing in my body and it turns out it's what, 10-year-old
Yeah,
basil smashed up. I don't know.
that's a dichotomy. I think there's got to be boundaries when it's actual safety, real life
Right,
safety,
right.
not hurt feelings,
Exactly.
but safety. In 2023, Amazon, which I'm surprised, but I guess, there was some disclosure, they reported seizing and
Mm-hmm.
disposing of over 7 million counterfeit products worldwide.
Oh my
And
gosh.
despite these efforts, counterfeiters continue to infiltrate the platform. A study found that more than half of immune boosting supplements, and please hear this, folks,
Yeah,
purchased on Amazon did not contain what they claimed on the label.
that's terrifying.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking about like I probably have 20 different bottles of supplements that I
Oh, I do
bought on
too.
Amazon, like at my house right now.
Most
Uh,
everything for me, Kristen, I have gone, I'm the health shake thing I've been doing for close to 20
yeah.
years. And I jokingly, I met with a nutritionist the other day. I told her I couldn't cook, but my morning shake is a work of art. But but
I
I
love it.
actually buy the roots, the real roots. I clean them well, like ginger, things like that. And
Yeah.
I do buy super greens, but I've researched it, and you can even look at it and smell it like it's condensed greens.
Right, right.
And the only other thing I use out of the can, I use collagen, and then I've got some protein powder, and everything else I use fresh honey, and I
Mm-hmm.
use spinach that I wash. So everything is pure and real. And when
Yeah.
I see companies selling this, you pour 2 or 3 different liquids and there's your shake, that always concerns me. And I even told
Yeah.
someone who believed that and sold it, I won't mention the company, but I said, why don't you throw some real blueberries? And I throw in half a banana. Why don't you just do that? But it's
Mm-hmm.
like they were so sold on that formula, which I didn't know any of
Mm-hmm.
this then. I just had some suspicions. And I always say, there's no way you can make in a lab what God has given you in vegetation and
Right.
things. So,
Unless it's like freeze dried or something like that. By the way,
yeah, yeah.
Costco has one of those. They're $2,500. They're pretty spendy for a freeze dry, but quite delicious. But it's deeply concerning. I mean, consumers trust these platforms to provide genuine products, especially when it comes to health supplements. But the reality is, unless buyers are doing their research, thorough research,
Yeah.
they can end up with dangerous or ineffective products.
No, it's very true. So we could go on and on and on
Oh,
about
yeah.
scams, but I do believe that one of the best things to do is to stay aware. So Kristen had this
Mm-hmm.
happen to her. We'll kind of end on this story, but on LinkedIn, I kept getting messages that I qualified for paid board positions.
Mm-hmm.
Now, in my ego, since I had been on some boards, I thought maybe I do. Maybe they want
Right.
me. Maybe they love me. Maybe it's a Nigerian princess. Kidding. Um,
Nigerian board.
but I'm also, I am a little bit cautious. So
Yeah.
they have it where you set up a calendar meeting. So all I did was just pop it out there and on LinkedIn, and a bunch of people said, yeah, these are a scam.
Mm.
My point is, Kristen said it at the beginning of the podcast, buy yourself some time. That's all you need is time,
Mm-hmm.
because thank goodness there are good things about the internet. You can go in and you can research. You can find out if it's a real website, if it's a real company. And there's so much that you can learn. And also trust, talk to some people. But it didn't take me 10 minutes to post that online and for them to say that's a fake board position. It
Yeah.
just takes some effort, but please talk to your family and friends. Talk to your children about how, they're going to be facing scams as well. Final thoughts, Kristen?
Yeah. No, I love it. And I even talk to my kids who like to play Roblox. And one kid was like, I guess I think this is important for parents to hear too. So my son Gavin, he was like, "Oh, this kid told me if I don't friend him, right? He has a rule on Roblox: you only friend people that you've met IRL in real life, right? Like actual people from school or the neighborhood, yada yada."
Kristen, I don't know what Roadblocks is. So just quickly,
Roblox. So it's like
Roblox.
it's a game. All Generation Alpha, all the young ones are playing it, and it's an online game, and there are like chat features available. And so basically they're playing online with these other people. And I set really strict guidelines for my kids so that they don't have any creeps interacting with them. But one kid was basically, and who knows, it could be an 80-year-old dude. It could be a female pervert. I don't know. But they basically were telling my son, I'm going to do this if you don't friend me back. I'm going to report you, or, things like that. And I'm so glad that I've had these conversations with my kids, because he was like, Mom, I just blocked this guy. Listen to what he was saying. And I'm like, might not even be a guy. Like, you know what I mean? So
that's exactly right.
So we have a very open dialogue. And so they're very discerning and are cautious on that. And I wish I could see more adults doing that. So that's the thing. Like you said, buy yourself time, do some research. Don't be click happy. I've gotten those bored ones too. And, it's like the old saying, if it's too good to be true, it's probably too good to be true. Right. So
if anyone needs a board member, call me. Call me, please.
I know. I feel like I get like one a week at least. I'm like, and it's a newer trend, right, Ron?
I guess so. I hadn't had that happen before. And Kristin, you have so many influencers, like, they're going to be knocking down your virtual door to try to get you to do anything. You have to be extra sensitive, because as I grew, and I don't have near as many followers as you, I got more of this stuff. So you'll have to do that. And lastly, we might do a segment on this, because you mentioned, it could be an 80-year-old man. There's a lot of stuff on pedos, and I'm talking about pedophiles. But anyway, I've got so many stories. The way they operate. But this was early on, but we had banned people from having like a laptop. And then we found out that's when Wii was real big. We found out through gaming stations, they could access child pornography and stuff. So a lot of parents don't know that. And so I think that might be a good future episode. Let us know what you think.
Too. I have to just say one thing on the pedo thing. My husband would be telling me about things that happened at work, and he was talking about a pedestrian, and I'd be like, yeah, pedo. I kept saying pedo. He's like, nope, it's not. We're not going to.
Semantics means a lot sometimes.
Yeah, he's like, no, it's a pedestrian, because he called him a ped versus a pedo, quite different.
Yeah, it is.
Anyways.
All right. Everybody, we really appreciate this. We hope you've enjoyed this episode. We certainly enjoyed putting it together and discussing it, and we want you to be safe. Kristin, how can people help us on the podcast?
Yes, we need you to subscribe and rate, RATE, rate the podcast. Share it out. If something within a specific episode resonates and you're like, my aunt could really benefit from that, or I have a crazy cousin, Arnie, that might be a narcissist, let me send that off, right? Like anything. Like if you think, this could benefit somebody, send it off.
Please
We appreciate it.
That's exactly right. All right, everybody, be the leader you're meant to be.
We'll see you next week.
The Dirty Side of Leadership podcast is brought to you by Forward Operations. If you'd like to book Ron or Kristin for speaking events, training, or executive coaching, visit forwardoperations.com. Be the leader you're meant to be.